First of all, let me thank you all for coming here today. My name is Polina, and for about 4 years I have been the director of UI/UX department in Belka Games. Belka Games is a game developer operating since 2010 with headquarters in Limassol, best known for such games as Clockmaker, Solitaire Cruise and Bermuda Adventures. Today I'll share my experience on using and cultivating the atmosphere of candid feedback in a team. We will highlight points on how to give your feedback and find appropriate words for it. So let's overview the lecture's plan. We will discuss the feedback culture and feedback loop, how to implement it in your company. Also highlight some useful rules and phrases for giving feedback, and point out areas for improvement for talented leads. I hope that my lecture will be helpful to anyone who has to give feedback and build effective teams. So, do you remember when you last time said to a manager that he is wrong? His or her reaction. Can you imagine giving advice to a CEO on how to make the team work better? Several years ago, I was convinced that giving such feedback is equal to losing your job. Giving and receiving honest feedback pushes the performance of the team to new levels. It is vital to give feedback with positive intent in order not to attack or injure anyone. The main point is that no one can know everything. Even people in leading positions can be wrong, and the cost of mistakes might be different. If it is the wrong contrast or composition of the icon, it's not a big deal. But in case of wrong UX or balance, the price might be the feature's revenue. The price might be huge. In our company, it is paramount to be active, begin in your job and try to give feedback that would be useful. The day you decided not to speak up would mean that you could help the business, but you decided not to. We believe that culture of feedback raises the team's experience, also increases the involvement and responsibility for the result, and shows that our employee is not just a part of mechanism, but he can influence the result. The more people heard they can do better, the better we performed as a company. Sounds exciting, so let's move on to the next part. How to give feedback or politeness as a main instrument. The feedback loop is one of the effective management tools for improving performance. We learn faster and accomplish more when feedback becomes a regular part of our daily collaboration. Feedback helps us to avoid misunderstandings, improve creativeness, and helps the team to achieve key metrics. But actually, few people enjoy receiving criticism. It may trigger feelings of frustration, demotivation, or even losing self-confidence. The feedback aim is to help each other to succeed, even if it means being offended for a moment. It will broaden our horizons and provide a higher quality of future result. In Belka Games, we understood that in the right moment, with the right approach, you can give feedback without hurting feelings. So, let's discuss an example. The task was to draw an expedition icon. It should illustrate a twist of creepers. If you Google the reference, you will, or like similar images, you will see images like on the left. But in the center, you can find the first concept of our employee. It is a little bit strange, isn't it? So even in this case, we should find appropriate words in order to complete the task and not to demotivate our employee. What can we say? So we can say, thank you, rather a good concept, but here we can hardly recognize the creeper. It would be better to search for a better object form, or maybe change the color or width of the lines. it would be more suitable for the lead to provide here some references and maybe his own sketch. So on the right you can see the final result of the task, and as for me it is rather cute and more similar for the references. So let's look at some rules that could be helpful. The first rule of giving feedback is aim to help. Feedback should be given positively. It is normal when we are afraid that our point of view, our suggestion won't be supported, and someone can name us not a team player. Therefore, you should be polite and think over the points that you would like to highlight. Also, you may use some phrases that would be given later. The second rule is offer a solution. Your feedback must be focused on points that will increase the quality of the task and of the result. If the task is related to UX decision or maybe digital art, it would be reasonable here to provide some references. The third rule is offer arguments. It is an essential rule of giving feedback. You should find out points that will make your suggestion reasonable. And last but not less important point is don't give feedback when you are angry or irritated. You should calm down and only after then formulate the answer. Let's now move on to the next part, how to receive feedback. It is an essential too, because your reaction might ruin the further initiative and desire to influence the result. The first rule is being grateful. It is a normal human reaction when a person who is being criticized becomes defensive. You should, when you receive feedback, keep in mind that your work isn't equal to your personality and your colleague tries to help you. You should listen carefully and be open-minded, becomes neither defensive nor angry. The second rule is accept or reject. Let's divide this rule into two parts. First is process or product suggestions. You will receive lots of feedback in Belka. As I have previously mentioned, all peers from junior to leader manager might give feedback on a build version or maybe a game in the store or some product processes. You need to listen and consider all provided feedback, but you may accept or reject it. So let's look at the example. The task was to create a new offer for our event. It should be related to the atmosphere of the islands. But the composition of the offer doesn't convert enough. The main mistake was that rubies aren't attractive enough and the background object argues with the foreground. It should be hard here for the users to define the main reason to buy this offer. Because it isn't separated from the main and secondary elements. Here I suggested to change the composition, also to change the accents on the background and foreground elements, and to correct the brightness of the objects. In this case, the team should accept the suggestion because I provided arguments and the cost of mistakes might be the feature's revenue. The cost is huge. So, the second step of access or reject is areas for improvement. Needless to say, is feedback is connected with your areas of improvement. You can't discard them, but they're worth doing. So let me share an example. We hired a junior tech designer without any relevant experience in game development. Through her hard work, she managed to grow from the junior tech designer, then to UI lead, and then to team lead in less than 2 years. This leads us directly to the next point. So, implementing feedback loop. When you implement honest feedback in your company, you should be ready to face the honest feedback about yourself, because the first step is that employees give feedback to their managers. At this point, we're usually starting on our onboarding period. It helps us to be sure that every newcomer, every employee is acknowledged with our corporate culture and feedback rules. So we can divide this rule into 3 steps. First is game feedback on our game. The second is process or communication improvements. Every month on one-on-one, employee highlights stressful, frustrated, or demotivated moments in process or communication. We also discuss and try to facilitate them. This point means that every month, every employee helps us to improve the process and find out destructive moments in management process or communication. The last step is giving ideas for tasks. From the first day, we show that our employee can influence the result, but they should provide arguments. The second rule is put the feedback as the first or the last item of the agenda and ask your colleagues for it. It should become normal to speak up in front of the team about your ideas. But of course, the manager should facilitate the meetings and stick to the plan. The last rule is being grateful and show belonging cues. A person should be courageous enough to speak up in front of the meeting, and when the employee suggests something, the manager should thank him and show belonging cues. Even if the idea is not so brilliant, the belonging cue might be minor. It can be a polite tone of voice, or looking positively, or hand nod, or even friendly smile. It is very important not to hurt feelings, especially when the employee speaks up for the first time. In our company, asking a question isn't equal for being unprofessional. As I have already mentioned, no one can know everything, but we should keep in mind the mistakes price. So let's look to another example. It is example from my personal experience in Belka Games. It is a well-known fact that any specialist in any positions take his or her performance extremely seriously. Due to my experience, the most sensitive part is the artist. It is really hard to motivate them to speak up in front of the team and share their opinion. The task was to raise the team's experience, also to reduce repetitive mistakes, and to decrease the number of iterations in the task. Ways of achievement were: weekly, we post art team results in our chat, and art lead initiated a meeting where they, with the team, discuss the results and suggest some improvements. During the meeting, the leaders show belonging cues and express the gratitude to the peers. After the meeting, we made a follow-up of the discussion and the tasks for improvement. After several meetings, several iterations, our colleagues became more active in sharing their experience. Moreover, they started to take their criticism more professionally. Also important that they began to ask themselves a question: can I do better? We find this rather valuable. The outcome is that our team is more effective. Also, it provided fast learning and changing experience beyond the peers, and also the positive attitude to the feedback. This significant experience we transfer to another departments. So let me provide some special phrases. So over the years of my leading position, I managed to make up a list of useful phrases that will help you to decrease and minimize the negative connotation of giving feedback. We can divide them into 3 groups: for rather good work, little bit worse, and for the result that should be reworked. So, for the first group, when the result is rather good, we can say, "Thank you, rather good concept, I'd like to highlight that," or "Thank you, it would be better to change." For the little bit worse result, we can say, "Not bad, but some additional work on certain points is desirable," or "Thank you, good result, let's work on the following points." Sometimes we need to rework a mock-up, and we can say, "Thank you for your job, but mock-up requires some improvements," or "Thank you for the mock-up, I would like to offer a couple of suggestions." So I also would like to present you some phrases for receiving feedback. It is also important to find appropriate words for it in order not to offend your colleague. These phrases we can divide also in 2 parts. First is when you disagree with the statement, and second part when we agree, accept, and will implement the suggestion. When we disagree, we can say, "Thank you for suggestion, I appreciate them, but it's necessary pay attention to," or "Thank you, it would be a good idea to arrange a meeting and discuss the issue." When we accept and ready for implementing, we can say, "Thank you for your feedback, several points will be taken as priority number 1," or "Thank you, during the finalization process, we will implement the suggestion." So, guiding feedback. Guiding feedback encourages the team to make decisions. The essential role of guiding feedback is to help the peers to brainstorm ideas, find references, and analyze solutions. The following phrases might be useful. "Guys, don't you feel that?" Or "Perhaps we should make," or "Don't you have some concerns about?" or "Don't you think we should find some more references?" This way, the feedback wouldn't be taken personally or as being forced. Guiding feedback teaches the employee to adopt the manager's problem-solving approach. It also helps us to increase the quality and the quality of the result, and our peers becomes more self-critical. As a result, the employee would be proud of his work that he achieved with the help of your feedback. In conclusion, I would like to highlight that very often we avoid of giving negative feedback. It is a little bit different from corrective one. It may be like you are underperforming or you are not efficient enough. We usually want to make a good impression, to seem friendly and reliable person, but if the manager fails to give negative feedback in time, it may cause a poor result or even the employee's dismissal. Let me give you some suggestions for giving negative feedback. First of all, we should prepare for it responsibly and find examples of the employee underperforming. Also, it would be necessary to keep performance statistics. We should be sure that this case is not the first, and if it is the first case, we should define maybe some life situation influenced and caused this underperformance situation, and we can help to find this decision and to help the employee to cope with this situation. The last rule is being objective. We should be honest on one-on-one meetings and give consistent feedback. It would be worse when one day we appoint a probation period or even dismiss the employee. By giving consistent and meaningful feedback in time, the manager, the leader, guide the employee, point out some areas for improvement, provide some literature or valuable courses. In this case, the overall success for the result will depend on his or her commitment. It is vital to convey the idea that when you receiving feedback, you become a better version of yourself. You notice something new and keep in mind what you were told yesterday. It is a long and gradual process, but it's worth it. We believe that feedback is growth. Let me finish with the quote. Employees join the company, but leave the managers. I hope that my lecture will be helpful and you got several insights out of it. So thank you for your attention, and if you have some questions, I will be glad to answer them.
Thank you very much. So give you feedback for this presentation and your questions.
Yes.
So there were kind of 4 steps for giving feedback.
Yes.
And one of them was to provide solutions to the problem.
Yes.
What if you don't have solutions?
Maybe you don't provide a suggestion because you are not you're not convinced that your suggestion is reasonable. If you have some ideas, they are based on some thoughts. So these thoughts should be provided to your colleague, and maybe you will brainstorm the final result.
So, even if I don't have a solution, I should give feedback, or no?
It can be useful. Why not? So you have some suggestions. So you have some thoughts based on some ideas and some references, maybe, or UX decisions. So if you provide them, maybe to your functional lead, maybe not to the whole team, you discuss them and only after them put the follow-up in the task. Why not?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you also.
Thanks for the talk. I wanted to ask how at your company you implemented actual acting on the feedback. So you may receive huge amounts of it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but usually you only have a certain amount of time set on future development. So how do you decide which feedback to implement and how to spend enough time for the future to be the quality you desire it to be?
Thank you for the question. It is a meaningful question because really you should make a system of giving and receiving feedback. We use Asana as for task tracker and put our points, our follow-ups on it, and our peers read it in the tasks. And also we manage the collaborators in the task if it depends on the task. And if you have some ideas, we have also the a part in our Asana task tracker where we put questions and describe our ideas, maybe thoughts, maybe references for improvement. And when the team have enough time for looking it through, after it, the manager initiated the meeting with maybe the producer or lead game designer or UI UX lead, where they can discuss the idea and implement your suggestion. And also, the manager should facilitate all the feedback. It is really difficult because anyone would like to give a suggestion what is wrong with UX, the contrast of the icon and so on. But we should consider this feedback, try to find reasonable ideas, and maybe make some tasks for backlog. Why not? Because you have the task in the due to the roadmap. So, thank you.
More questions? Any questions? Yeah.
Hey, Polina, thank you so much for your presentation. But maybe you can share your experience with positive feedback, because a lot of folks was on negative, constructive feedback. And in my experience, for example, it's not a problem in this region to say that you are wrong. But yes, the way how we say it and options and tips that you need to have for managers, employees, it's okay. But what about positive feedback?
Thank you for the question. It is a brilliant question because it's also important for providing the growth of the employee to highlight points when he is good at something, when you admit that he made this or those tasks in a good way, and it motivates also our employees. Of course, we show the gratitude in the task with the several words, thank you, a good concept, yes, in the tasks, and try to say good words for our employee. And also, we are interested in what way our employee is wanted to grow, yes. So we also try to help him to grow in those way. What is the dream, okay, of our employee? But yes, you should point out good moments and worst moments. And the worst moments, why I focused mostly maybe on them, because they should be given maybe in the right way, more carefully, more kindly, in order not to demotivate and frustrate. Because when you saw such concept of the June of the employee in June position, you can be wrong, because when you are the leader, his first leader, and you may ruin the further initiative for giving feedback. So when he made the final result, also I showed the gratitude for him, thank him, and so we are working still together.
More questions?
Any questions else?
We have time for last question. I have the last question.
Okay.
How do you reward guys? Do you show them the game or something like this? And it is your picture, it is your emoji, I don't know, something inside. How do you encourage them after work?
After the work, so we made also make some meetings for discussing and brainstorming some ideas. And for example, we started working on a new feature. So I'm convinced that UI designers should provide and look for the references and for the similar mechanics, maybe not even in casual game, but maybe in mid-core, why not? And these searching for different suggestions, solutions, UX solutions, encourage our employees for being great designers, or maybe I couldn't say exactly for the programmers, for example, because I'm a UI director, but we try to dream what kind of a game we would like to present for our users, what we would like to say to them. And when the employee understands that he can influence not only the task, but somebody's mind, somebody's I don't know how to say, somebody's dream. Okay, I think it is worse for dreaming when you're drawing.
Thank you.